We are now live, but we'll wait for a few minutes until the time strikes. Hare Krishna devotees, can you hear me loud and clear?
Yes, Prabhu. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna to everyone. Dandavat pranam to all of you and my obeisances to all of you. Let us begin with the prayers. We are going to take 3 sessions on the overview of the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. I would request you all to also keep your button mute and pray with me. Om Ajnanatimirandasya Jnananjana Chakshur Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Om Namo Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prestaya Bhutale Srimate Bhakti Vedanta Swami Niti Namine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Namaste Saraswate Deve Gauravani Pracharine Nirvishesha Shunyavadi Pashyata Deshatarine Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Padantikam Vandeham Shri Guruhu Shri Yutpadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavasya Shri Rupa Sagjatam Sahagana Raghunatham Intam Tam Sajivam साद्वैतम सावधूतम परिजन सहितम श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य देव श्री राधा कृष्ण पादान सगण ललितां श्री विशाखान्वितांश हे कृष्ण करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमोस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरांगी श्री राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी विश्वानुसुते प्रिय देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्य एव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जयमुदीरये शृणतां स्वकथः कृष्णः पुण्यश्रवणकीर्तनः हृदयन्तस्तूयभद्राणि विदुनोति सुरस्तथा नष्टप्रायेषु अभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवती उत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवती नैष्टिकी. Right, so today we are embarking on Srimad Bhagavatam. Srimad Bhagavatam is uh, great scripture loved by all and is described as a PhD level of study. We are going to look through the first canto of Srimad Bhagavatam today, and we'll have at least the first part of the three sessions of this lecture. Srimad Bhagavatam has 10 subject matter and a beautiful sloka of Srimad Bhagavatam is Sri Shuka Vacha Atra Sargo Visargo
Hare
Cha
Krishna, Prabhu.
Hare Krishna. Yes, Prabhuji?
Prabhuji, I was asked to remind you to record this conversation, Prabhuji,
Yeah.
to record the video.
Yes,
Also,
Prabhuji, we are live on the
okay,
YouTube.
okay, Prabhuji, sorry
Thank
to
you.
interrupt then. Hare Krishna.
No issue, Prabhuji. Thank you. Thank you very much for your kind attention to me. Thank you. श्रीशुकावाच अत्र सर्गो विसर्ग च स्थानं पोषणम् उतरया मनवन्तरा ईशानुकथाः निरोधो मुक्तिराश्रया. Sri Sukadeva Goswami said that there are 10 subject matters. First is Sargaha, that is statement of creation of universe. Second is Visargaha, that is statement of subcreation. Third is Sthanam, that is planetary systems. Fourth is Poshanam, that is protection. Fifth is Uttayaha, that is creation, impetus. Sixth is Manvantara, the change of Manus. Isha Anukatha, that is science of God. Eighth is Nirodha, that is going back to Godhead. Ninth is Mukti, that is liberation. 10th is Ashraya, that is the Sambam Bodham. Now that we have a good attendance, I'll start the class. I need your full attention during this 1 hour and 10 minutes or so. It's very essential because I'm going to go fast, and I believe that when you drive a car, when you are fast on a speed, you have no chance to look elsewhere but on the roads. If I am slow, that will give you enough time to divert your attention elsewhere. Number two is I would request and suggest that please keep noting important points in your notebook. I'm going to tell you about 100% of first Okanto overview. Even if you remember half of it, that will sail you through the interview that you are preparing for. I have my final request that keep writing your questions and ask them at the end of the session so that will keep the flow of the talk going smoothly. We'll go back to the subject. So there are 10 subject matters we just saw through. Sarga, the elemental creation of 16 principles of matter, 5 gross elements, that is Panch-bhutas or Panch-mahabhutas, earth, water, fire, air, and ether. Ether is sky. The 5 objects of sense perception, Tan mantras, they are sound, form, taste, smell, and touch. 5 knowledge acquiring senses known as Jnanendriyas, they are eyes, ears, nose, tongue, and the skin. 5, 5, and 5 makes 15, plus 1, that is mind, that makes 16 principal elements. These 16 principles are created by the first Purusha incarnation, Mahavishnu or Mahat Vishnu. Ashraya, the supreme shelter, the transcendental Sri Krishna, the 10th subject matter of Srimad Bhagavatam, and in order to properly describe him, Sri Vyasa Muni has explained the other 9 subject matters. The ultimate purpose of the first 9 topics is to help us understand the 9th topic, Ashraya Tattva. The first 9 topics deal with Supreme Lord Krishna's various energies, expansions, majesty, and greatness. Understanding them help us better appreciate his personal attributes and activities with his dearest devotees as described in 10th Canto. Without studying the first 9 topics, one might perceive the pastimes of Krishna in 10th Canto as ordinary. This suggests that we must learn Srimad Bhagavatam in the sequence from 1 to 10 Canto. Excuse me for a minute. Srimad Bhagavatam is a Granth presentation of Lord Sri Krishna, and we attribute there to various names of the Lord. The first 2 cantos are lotus feet of the Lord. Third and the fourth cantos represent thighs. Fifth canto represents Nabi or navel. Sixth canto represents the chest of the Lord. And seventh and eighth canto represent arms of the Lord. Ninth canto throat. Tenth canto lotus face. 11th forehead. And finally 12th canto as the head of Lord Krishna. Glories and significance of Srimad Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is the crown jewel of all revealed scriptures. Bhagavatam is the ripened fruit of the Vedic desired tree. Bhagavatam is the literary incarnation of Krishna, a Granth Bhagavatam. Bhagavatam is the natural commentary of Vedanta, Mahabharata, Gayatri, and Vedas. Bhagavatam is for purification of conditioned soul and relished by devotees. Who doesn't recognize Bhagavatam is doomed. Bhagavatam is dear to the topmost Paramhansas. Paramhansas are the ultimate and final devotees sitting next to Lord. The first canto is known as creation. And there are few things that I must clarify to you before we proceed further. First, the Bhagavatam spoken by Lord Krishna was to the heart of Brahma. The knowledge was directly transferred to the heart of Brahma. Narada Muni transferred this to Vyasadeva. Vyasadeva then spoke and taught his son, Sukadeva Goswami. And Sukadeva Goswami then taught this to Parikshit Maharaj in his last 7 days of life. And at that time, Suta Goswami was present. So Suta Goswami also heard it directly from Sukadeva Goswami. Mind you, Sukadeva Goswami is the son of Vyasadeva. Suta Goswami then talked to the sages at Naimisharanya, who all got together headed by Saunaka Rishi at Naimisharanya for 1,000 sacrifices. And further, Maitreya Rishi also talks to Vidura on the same Srimad Bhagavatam. The idea of telling you these pairs of people is usually the disciples ask questions, and these questions are answered by the learned teacher or a guru or a spiritual master. And this is how the whole scripture of Srimad Bhagavatam is written in the form of questions and answers. And so we must understand who is talking to whom. The first canto, as I said earlier, is known as creation. And the first chapter is the questions by the sages. Of this first chapter, first three verses, verse number 1, 2, and 3 are known as Mangalachara. And the first verse is known as, you remember that we had learned about Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana in Srimad Bhagavatam. These three verses represent the same process. Let's go through the verses. But before we go through the verse, I must tell you how the cantos are divided. Canto is divided into various chapters. The first canto is called a creation. The canto 1 describes the purpose of Srimad Bhagavatam to depict, inspire, and awaken pure and unmotivated love of God. Through various narrations, we witness this pure love being exhibited by different devotees who all ultimately attain the absolute perfection of life. Canto 1 is chapter 1 to 19, and they are divided into four major groups. We call it SLAP, S-L-A-P. S is Srimad Bhagavatam, first 6 chapters. L, love, that is chapter 7 to 11. A, attaining the absolute, 12 to 15 chapters. And P, Parikshit Maharaj punished, chapter 16 to last chapter 19. Let's look at each of them in little detail. As or Srimad Bhagavatam, first 6 chapters include the subject matter of glorious Bhagavatam in first chapter, essential truths of Bhagavatam by 6 questions in chapter 1, 2, and 3, the goal of Bhagavatam, Sri Krishna in chapter 3, the history of Bhagavatam, 4 questions at chapter 3 and 4, 5, compilation of Bhagavatam in chapter 4, 5, and 6. Can you see the slides very well, devotees?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you. Thank you. L is for love, and that includes 7 to 11 chapters. The love of Arjuna is chapter 7. The love of Uttara and Kunti is in chapter 8. The love of Bhismadeva is in chapter 9. Love of Hastinapur residents in separation is chapter 10. Love of Dwarka residents in union is chapter 11. Attaining the absolute, that's chapter 12 to 15. four chapters. The Parikshit's birth and eventual departure is in chapter 12. Dhritarashtra departs in chapter 13 and Krishna departs in chapter 14 and 15. Parikshit punished, chapter 16 to 19. Parikshit's rule is described in chapter 16. Parikshit and Kali are described in chapter 16 and 17. Parikshit cursed is described in 18. Parikshit retires and Sukdeva enters in chapter 19. The breakdown of the first canto is also divided in another principles in three sections. If you find the first four sections little difficult to remember, this is easier way to remember. The 6 questions are asked by the sages of Naimisharanya and they are answered by Sutta Goswami in first 3 chapters. History of Srimad Bhagavatam, including the history of author of Srimad Bhagavatam, is from chapter 4 to 7. Chapter 7 only up to verse 11. From chapter 7 verse 12 till chapter 19, it is history of Maharaj Parikshit, his birth, his activities, his deliverance of King Parikshit, and birth of Maharaj, Maharaj Parikshit's rising Kali, Maharaj Parikshit's meeting with Sukadeva Goswami. So that's first canto, bird's eye overview. We'll go into detail now into each chapter. The first chapter is questioned by the sages. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya Janmadhyasya yato invayada itiratas Chartheshu abhina swara Tene brahmaradayadi kavaye muyanti suraya Tejo vari mrudam yatha vinimayo Yatra trisargo brusha Dhamna svena sada nirasta kuhakam Satyam param dhimahi. Does anyone know how to keep this bar at the bottom? I have a bar on top. I need it at the bottom. Okay, I got it. Describing the absolute truth in this verse, Sambandha. O my Lord Shri Krishna, son of Vasudeva, O all-pervading personality of Godhead, I offer my respectful obeisances unto you. I meditate upon Lord Shri Krishna because he is the absolute truth and primeval cause of all causes of the creation, sustenance and destruction of the manifested universes. He is directly and indirectly conscious of all manifestations and he is independent because there is no other cause beyond him. It is he only who first imparted the Vedic knowledge unto the heart of Brahmaji, the original living being. By him, even the great sages and demigods are placed into illusion as one is bewildered by the illusory representations of water seen in the fire or land seen on water. Only because of him do the material universes, temporarily manifested by the reactions of these three modes of material nature, appear factual, although they are unreal. I therefore meditate upon him, Lord Sri Krishna, who is eternally existent in the transcendental abode, which is forever free from illusory representations of the material world. I meditate upon him, for he is absolute truth. That's the first verse of Srimad Bhagavatam. Dharmaha projahita kaitavatra paramo nirmatsaranam satam vedyam vastavam matra vastu sivadam tapatrayon Srimad Bhagavate Mahamuni Krite Kivaparai Ishwaraha Sadhyaradhya Avarudyate Kritipihi Sam Sushrushubi Tatsharat. Glories of Srimad Bhagavatam in this verse represent Abhideya, completely rejecting all religious activities which are materially motivated. These Bhagavad Puran propounds the highest truth which is understandable by those devotees who are fully pure in heart. The highest truth is reality distinguished from illusion for the welfare of all. Such truth uproots the threefold miseries. This beautiful Bhagavatam, compiled by the great sage Vyasadeva in his maturity, is sufficient in itself for God realization. What is the need of any other scripture? As soon as one attentively and submissively hears the message of Bhagavatam, by this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his. Sorry for doing this little jugglery. By this culture of knowledge, the Supreme Lord is established within his heart. The third verse is Nigam Kalpataror Galitam Phalam Shukamukhat Amrita Dravya Sayutam Pibata Bhagavatam Rasamalayam Muhura Aho Rasika Bhuvi Bhavuka. Invitation to relish Srimad Bhagavatam, and that is the Prayojana or the goal. O expert and thoughtful man, relish Srimad Bhagavatam, the mature fruit of the desired tree of Vedic literatures. It emanated from the lips of Sri Sukadeva Goswami. Therefore, this fruit has become even more tasteful. Although its nectarian juice was already relishable for all, including liberated souls. Sukadeva Goswami is represented by parrots. Parrots, when they pick, they make scratches on the surface of the fruit. Scientifically, the pectin layer of the fruit is broken, and that enhances the conversion of all the acids into sugar, and thus the fruit becomes very sweet and very tasty. So everything mentioned in even Srimad Bhagavatam is scientifically perfect. So we completed the first three slokas of first chapter. They are very important. They represent the Sambandha, Abhideya, and Prayojana, and they tell us about the absolute truths of Supreme Personality of the Godhead, about Srimad Bhagavatam, and an invitation to relish Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, text 4 to 5 is the setting scene where Saunaka and the sage is assembled at Naimisharanya to perform 1,000-year sacrifices. In the Satyuga, the age of the average human being was several thousand years. The sages made inquiries with great respect to Srila Sutta Goswami. Sages glorify Sutta Goswami 6 to 8 verses. He is free from vice, heard scriptures from proper sources, and explained them. He is also well versed in the theistic and other philosophies, and he is submissive and gentle disciple. Text 9 to 11 describes first two questions of Srimad Bhagavatam. The first question is in verse 9, and that is, what is ultimate good of people in general? The second question is in verse 11, and that says, please explain the essence of all scriptures for everyone's satisfaction. The title of the chapter is The Six Questions, and these first two are the questions out of 6 questions. The third question comes on text 12. Why did Krishna appear in the womb of Devaki? Now text 13 to 20 describes the eagerness to hear Krishna Katha. The increasing listener's enthusiasm is described here. There is an eagerness that develops to hear about Godhead and his incarnations. Even unconscious chanting of holy name liberates one from the birth and death. Pure devotee can purify one immediately and even faster than Ganges. The question 4 is in verse 17. Tell us about adventures that Lord performs in his incarnations of creation. And verse 18 describes fifth question. Tell us about pastime of the Lord in his multi-incarnations. 19 describes one can relish hearing of his pastime at every moment. And want to know specifically about pastimes of Krishna and Balram in verse 20. So this completes the first 20 slokas of the first chapter in nutshell. '21 to 23 slokas actually describe adapting the process of self-realization Kali has begun and the sacrifices are performed hearing Krishna Katha by the sages. We accept you as the captain of the ship. All these sages are described. And last question asked is in 23rd verse. After Krishna's departure, where has the religion principle taken shelter? These are the 6 questions at the end of the chapter. The first is, what is the ultimate good for the people in general, described in verse 9? What is the essence of all scripture, described in verse 11? Third question is, for what purpose did Lord Krishna appear in 12th verse? Which adventures does Lord perform in his incarnation, especially related to creation in verse 17? And what are the activities of his incarnations in verse 18? And the last question in verse 23, to whom have religious principle gone for shelter after departure of Lord Krishna? Now we are going through some of the important areas. What are the qualifications to receive transcendental knowledge? Eagerness, sincerity, hearing from right source, submissiveness, and hearing step by step are the qualifications to receive this transcendental knowledge. Qualification to speak this transcendental knowledge. There should not be any material motive. Person should be free from vices, should be a Goswami, must have a spotless character, well versed in the scripture, and submissive and gentle disciple. Hearing as an act of compassion. Mind you, hearing is an act of compassion. And this is the only way to counter the iron age of Kali. That's the end of chapter 1. The second chapter is divinity and divine services. The first question is answered by answered by Sutta Goswami to the sages of the Visharad. The supreme occupation or dharma for all humanity is that by which man can attain to loving devotional service unto the transcendental Lord. Such devotional service must be unmotivated and uninterrupted to completely satisfy the self. The supreme occupation of Paro Dharma is pure devotional service, which gives complete satisfaction. And the direct path given by Srila Prabhupada to us all is process of Krishna consciousness. The second question is being answered by Sutta Goswami here. By rendering devotional service unto the personality of Godhead, Sri Krishna, one immediately acquires causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. So bhakti unto Lord Krishna enables one to immediately acquire causeless knowledge and detachment from the world. Question 1 and 2 are about the ultimate good for humanity and the essence of all scripture. The answer is bhakti. as mentioned from 6 to 7 verses, and process of bhakti as mentioned in 29th verse of this chapter. Now, there are two kinds of occupation that we must understand as described in the 6th verse of this chapter. Pravruti marg, or path of sense enjoyment, and Nivrutti marg, or path of renunciation. The path of sense enjoyment is inferior. It is actually a material existence. It is temporary, illusory, and full of miseries. Nivrutti marg, or path of renunciation, is superior. That is a spiritual existence. It is eternal, full of knowledge, and blissful. People who take care of the needs of the body and the mind are not satisfied in their occupational duties because they do not satisfy the soul. And that's why it is called waste of time. Non-devotees never gain anything in this world. There is no better than, so they are no better than either cow or an ass. Soul is satisfied only when it is engaged in devotional service, by hearing and by chanting. Important thing to make advancement in the devotional service is to increase the appetite for hearing. What are the goals of occupational duties? Occupational duties are meant for liberation, not for material gain. These are all Brahma Vakyas you must remember. Dharma needs to be performed for Apavarga, for ultimate liberation, not for material wealth. Don't use Artha, the material wealth, for Kama or sense gratification. In other words, Dharma, Artha, Kama, and Moksha that we describe as a religion is not to be used for the purpose of material gains and for the sense gratification, but to be used for Lord Krishna. There are four kinds of the human beings. They are karmis, jnanis, yogis, and bhaktas. Karmis have their mind and sense completely behind the sense gratification. And that's why they always are far from Lord Krishna. Jnanis attempt to have the mind control and sense control, and thus they, by and large, have the Brahman realization or looking at the Brahman light or effulgence of Lord's body. Yogis usually have their mind and sense under great control, and that's why they go as far as Paramatma realization or a super soul residing in the heart of each living being. They have realization up to that stage only. However, bhaktas or devotees who are performing hearing, chant, and chanting of the Lord get a prem bhakti and realize the Lord as a person. This is a personal realization of Lord Krishna. There are various stages of bhakti, and as you all know, there are 9 stages of the bhakti, which passes through several steps. The first 3 stages are Shraddha, Sadhu Sangha, and Bhajan Kriya. And this is rendering service to great devotees, hearing with care and attention, and serving those who are freed from all vices. They pass through different stages of Satam Krupa, Mahat Seva, Shraddha, Guru Padashraya, and Bhajaneshu Spruha. The fourth stage is Anartha Nivrutti. Anartha Nivrutti is a Krishna benefactor of devotee, cleanses the heart of material desires. Abhadrani is the meaning of Anartha. The next is the Nistha, and regular hearing of book Bhagavatam and serving the devotees. Devotee Bhagavat destroys all inauspicious things in the mind and gives loving service to the Lord. After Nistha comes the Ruchi and Asaktis. Don't look at the number, they are not right. So Ruchi and Asakti are the next 2 stages. Ruchi is nothing but the taste, and Asakti is a firm attachment to the Lord. And lastly, the 8th and 9th are Bhava and Prema. Bhava is developing Rati. Rati is the strong, deep attachment to the Lord. And this is the stage where the mind is replaced by the feeling of Rati or Bhava. And actually, the devotee is almost nearer to a Prema Bhakti, which is the final stage of being with Lord Sri Krishna. So if we go back and look at it, the Nishtha is the fifth uh, fifth uh, step, fifth stage of bhakti, and then comes Ruchi and Asakti. Nishtha is the stage which is very strong stage from where falling becomes very difficult. So in short, this chapter answers few of the questions raised by sages as Naimisharanya, and these answers are like here. The first question was, what is the ultimate good for the people in general? And it is answered in 6th verse as bhakti and process of bhakti. What is the essence of all scripture? That is answered in the 7th verse in this chapter as bhakti and process of bhakti. The third question is, for what purpose did Lord Krishna appear? And the answer is in the 34th verse, to reclaim the conditioned souls in pure goodness. The fourth question is, which adventures does Lord perform in his incarnations, especially related to creation? And the answer is Purushavatara in 17th verse. And what are the activities of his incarnation? Lilavatara is answered in 18th verse. The last question is being answered in the next chapter. I'll take 10 minutes more, but I think we finished this. The name of the chapter, the third chapter, is Krishna, the source of all incarnations. And it goes through various stages. But let's look at the overview of the chapter. It describes the Purushavatara in first 5 verses. And from 6 to 29 verses, it describes incarnations and their source, Krishna. 30 to 34 verses describes imaginary material forms of Jiva and Virat Rupa. 35 to 39 verses describing and understanding the Lord, and 40 to 44 verses describes the glories of Srimad Bhagavatam, the literary incarnation of Lord Krishna. So we are now going through the section which actually describes the further detail of Purushavata and the five incarnations. Sutta said, the beginning of the creation, the Lord first explained himself in the first expanded himself in the universal form of Purusha incarnation and manifested all the ingredients of material creation. And thus, at first, there was the creation of 16 principles of material action. This was for the purpose of creating material universe. Can you see this very clearly, this slide?
Yes, Prabhuji.
Thank you. From Krishna or Govinda comes Balram. From Balram comes Sankarshana. From Sankarshana comes Narayana. From Narayana, the second Sankarshana. From second Sankarshana, Mahavishnu. From Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. And from Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. The purpose of creation basically is for Nitya souls with a strong aspiration. And this is a correctional institution, very much like hospital. So material manifestation or cosmic manifestation is nothing but a correctional institution. And Mahat Tattvas we learned are 16 elements. A part of Purusha lies down within the water of the universe, known as causal ocean. From the navel lake of his body sprouts a lotus stem, and from the lotus flower atop this stem, Brahma, the master of engineers in the universe, become manifest. So that's how the first living human being, Brahma, the master engineer, is created by Lord Mahavishnu. It is believed that all the universal planetary systems are situated on the extensive body of Purusha, but he has nothing to do with the created material ingredients. His body is eternally in spiritual existence par excellence. The universal form means imagining different elements within this material universe as the limbs of the Lord, because for a conditioned living being, whatever he sees is what he believes. Lord Krishna's expansions are now described here. Lord Krishna's expansions through Garbhodakshaya Vishnu. So Garbhodakshaya Vishnu then goes into becoming the Kshirodakshaya Vishnu. Kshirodakshaya Vishnu is the super soul or Paramatma. He goodness. All incarnations, all incarnations emanate from him. The next from the Garbhodakshaya Vishnu is Brahma. The master engineer. He is in charge of mode of passion, and he is a secondary creator. Lord Shiva is in charge of mode of ignorance, and he is responsible for destruction of the universe. So this, in short, what we call Brahma, Vishnu, Mahesh. Mahesh is the Vishnu, who is the maintainer. Brahma is the secondary creator, and Shiva is the destroyer. Krishna's different avatars. Purushavatara, there are three Purushavatars. Karanodakshaya Vishnu, that is Mahavishnu, Garbhodakshaya Vishnu, and Kshirodakshaya Vishnu, as we just saw. Lilavataras are Matsya, Kurma, Varaha, Rama, Narsimha, and Vamana. Yugavataras are four. Satyayug had Narsimha Deva, is known as red colored. Treta Yuga had Lord Ramachandra, it's white. The Dwapar Yuga had Lord Krishna, which is black. And Kali Yuga had Lord Chaitanya, yellow, which was just 500 years ago. Gunavataras are mainly three: Brahma, Vishnu, and Shiva. Manvantaras are Swayambhuva Manu and Sarosiyasa Manu. At the present moment or the present days, Vaivaswata Manu is the present Manu. And lastly, Satyavesha Avtara. These are the Kumaras, Narad Muni, and Prithu Maharaj. We'll go through very quickly about some of the avatars. The third incarnation is Narad Muni. He appears in every canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Narada Pancharatra is for the karmis to take up the devotional service. He transformed Dhruv Maharaj, Prahlad Maharaj, Pracheta, King Prachina Bharita, and other people, including instructed Maharaj Yudhishthira. For diseased men of the world to convert their present engagement to the path of spiritual emancipation, he says the cause and the remedy of the disease may be the same, but it be treated by expert doctor like Narad Muni. The example given is if you take excessive milk, you develop indigestion and tummy upset, which can be cured by another form of a milk, that is by giving curd, but it has to be given by expert physician like Srila Prabhupada. The fourth incarnation is Nar and Narayan Rishis. Nar Narayan Rishis humble Lord Indra, showing through their own example the importance of performing austerities for the realization of transcendence. The greatest of the sages from Mother Murti, the daughter of Daksha and wife of Dharma, he preached by his own practical demonstration the science of Naiskarmaya. When Cupid were sent by King Indra, who had become fearful and envious at seeing the austerities of Lord Narayan, that best of the sages welcomed Cupid as an honored guest, pacified him, and then he offered prayers. By the order of the sage, the Cupid returned from there with Urvashi. These are the pastimes, some of the pastimes of the third and the fourth incarnation, Narada Muni and the Narayan Rishi. The sixth incarnation is Lord Dattatreya. Ansuya, the wife of Atri Muni, gave birth to three very famous sons, Soma, Dattatreya, and Durvasa. Soma was a partial representation of Lord Brahma. Dattatreya was a partial representation of Lord Vishnu, and Durvasa was a partial representation of Lord Shiva. The eighth incarnation is Lord Rishabdev. King Nabi, the oldest son of Agnidra, with the spotless character, wanted to have sons. He underwent several austerities, penances, and performed many sacrifices along with his wife. Being very kind to his devotees, Lord Vishnu, the master of all sacrifices, was very pleased with Maharaja Nabi. He personally appeared before the king in his four-headed feature, and the priests began to offer their prayers unto him for a son like the Lord. And Lord Vishnu agreed to take birth in the womb of Meru Devi, the wife of King Nabi, the incarnate as King Rishabdeva. Lord Rishabdeva humbles King Indra. Lord Rishabdeva's teaching to 100 sons. 81 of them were Brahmanas, 9 of them were Paramahansas. They are known as Navayogendra, and 10 of them were Kshatriyas. Probably last 2 or 3 slides. Ninth incarnation is King Pruthu. Maharaja Pruthu specifically empowered to rule and maintain the living entities, that is Palan Shakti. And the 18th creation was Lord Ramachandra. Lord Rama exhibited several superhuman powers, and Lord Rama or Ramchandra was Supreme Personality of God Himself. He exhibited superhuman activities and prepared a royal road on the Indian Ocean with the stones that floated on the water. Because weightlessness is the creation of the Lord, by which he can make the gigantic planets fly and float in the air, he made the stones even within this earth to be weightless and prepared a stone bridge on the sea without any pillars. The 20th incarnation or the last incarnation was Lord Buddha. But the purpose of Lord Buddha's appearance was very simple, and that was to decree the slaughtering of poor animals performed according to the rules of the Vedic literature. So all the sacrifices which were performed grossly in excess with great cruelty for the material benedictions and benefits were stopped by Lord Buddha. Gradual presentation of philosophy by subsequent Acharya after Lord Buddha were Sankaracharya, Ramanujacharya, Madhavacharya, and Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. This is very important, and we just go through it. How the material forms of both Lord and living entities are imaginary. Universal form of the Lord is manifested by Lord's external energy that is imaginary and temporary. To enable the external energy is the same as material manifestation or prakriti that we call it. To enable less intelligent people to understand that Lord has a form, gross and subtle material forms, both of living entities and the Lord. And lastly, the Lord's, Supreme Lord's qualities, they are Amogha Leela. His activities are always spotless. Sat Guna Isha, the master of the six senses. Sat Vargikam, that is endowed with all the potencies of his opulences. That's omnipotent. And Atmatantraha, self-dependent. The last question is answered here. To whom have the religious principle gone for shelter after his departure? That is answered in this chapter in verse 43. It has taken shelter in Srimad Bhagavatam. So reading and understanding Srimad Bhagavatam is like going through the conversation with Lord Krishna himself. I must thank you all for your attention for a time longer than a prescribed time. It's 1 hour, 20 minutes. And I sincerely apologize. At the same time, I thank you all for attending with attention. My gratitude to Radha Govinda Temple, Srila Prabhupada, and Sri Namanista, his Grace Namanista Das Prabhuji, and my teacher, Aishwarya Sudra Devi Dasiji. Gratitude to all my loving teachers, including Namanista Das Prabhuji, Aishwarya Mataji, Premakishwari Mataji, and Pran Chaitanya Prabhuji. All the glories to them. Hare Krishna, and my obeisances and Danvat Pranam to all you devotees. Some of the slides that I have shown are taken with the permission of Sri Pran Chaitanya Prabhuji, who is our teacher in teaching us Srimad Bhagavatam in Bhakti Vaibhav classes. Hare Krishna to all the devotees, and now we are open for questions. Hare Krishna. Are there
Hare
any
Krishna, Prabhuji.
questions, additions, any revelation, any queries? Please go ahead one by one.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji, for this wonderful session. Prabhuji, I have this one question. Is there any one particular question that they usually definitely ask in the interview, which gets repeated all the time? Is there any one particular question as such? Hare Krishna.
Prabhuji, what I'll do is I have decided that at the end of 3 lectures, I'll tell you the set of questions that I was asked, and then the question that I was asked when I appeared in interview, and I listened to other people also, the common questions that are asked regarding the first canto. That we will come after the third lecture is over. But there are many questions that are asked, and I realized one thing, that if you answer the question asked from Canto 1, Srimad Bhagavatam, they take you as a credit. And even if you have done fumbled in some of the simple answers earlier or after, they are excused because you know a good answer from first Canto Srimad Bhagavatam. So I felt and realized that first Canto questions and answers are very important place in the interview. Does that make some sense, Prabhuji?
Yes, Prabhuji. Yes, Prabhuji. Hari Bol. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Are there any questions, any revelations, any additions, or any queries? Let me ask you one simple thing. Was I very fast in going through, or the pace is good enough for all of you? Hare Krishna, you can be very frank with me because that is the pace that we will take for next 2 lectures.
Hare Krishna Prabhuji, it was good pace.
Okay. Thank you, Mataji.
Hare Krishna.
I feel I am a little faster, but that's the only way to finish in 3 lectures. Good. I'm happy that it keeps you on the ride, but not too fast that it becomes suddenly a roller coaster. So far as it remains as a pleasant ride, we'll keep the speed up.
Hare
Any
Krishna
other
Prabhuji.
question? Yes,
Hare
Prafula
Krishna
Mataji.
Prabhuji. Once again, can you repeat, Prabhuji, all the cantos? That is lotus feet. Then what is that, Prabhuji? First, second lotus feet. Then third.
First two cantos are lotus feet of the Lord, left and
Yes,
right.
Prabhuji.
Third and the fourth canto is thighs. Fifth canto is a nabi. Sixth canto is the chest. Seventh canto is the throat. Eighth canto is the face. Ninth canto is the forehead. Let me go back to the slide.
तेरे कपड़े अब भी डाले. Just now.
Tenth canto is the face.
ये भी डाल दे दिया आज डाल ना. I was waiting for that.
Yeah,
वैसे भी
this
कपड़े
is the
बहुत ज्यादा है.
slide.
कल हमारे
Seventh
कपड़े
and
में डाल दे. बहुत
seventh
कपड़े. दो
and
bags
eighth
mix डाल दे.
cantos are
तब तक
eight.
भरा हुआ है. जब कुर्ता था मैं सोची थी वो निकाल दूंगी.
Hare Krishna, can you stop your conversation?
कौन सा पीला
Hare
कुर्ता?
Krishna Mataji.
आज का.
पहन के गई. आज का तो मैं 2 दिन नीचे.
मैंने देखी नहीं.
प्लेन पीला कुर्ता.
तो उसका नहीं जाता.
उसका नहीं जाता, लेकिन अगर इसमें कुछ रंग रह गया होगा तो लग तो नहीं जाएगा.
Hare Krishna Mataji.
सही रंग था.
Okay. Mataji, can you get that? The canto's name and their representation of the limbs?
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhu.
You got all of them?
I'm on mute
Thank
now.
you.
Number 12, can you scroll, Prabhuji?
No, you are not
Number
on mute,
12.
Mataji.
No, Prabhuji. Just I'm
Okay.
looking at this. Number 12th, Prabhuji. 11th forehead, then 12th.
12th is a head. Head or the top part of the.
Yes, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. I got it.
Yeah. Any other question, any other revelation, any other queries? If there are none, I think we are over time. My apologies for going little further, but that is the only way to finish it. So please allow me to do that. Hare Krishna and Dandavat Pranam to all the devotees. Vancha kalpatarubhasya. Hare Krishna to all the devotees.
Hare Krishna, Prabhuji. Thank you, Prabhuji. Pranam.
Thank you, Prabhuji.
Thank you.
Prabhuji.